Today, I want to welcome you to this live stream with Jessica Rasdall. But first, I want to introduce myself. I'm September Smith, and I am the host of the upcoming Breakthrough with Media Summit, which is happening next week, Tuesday, June the 14th to the 16th. And this is going to be a 3-day live virtual event for entrepreneurs, authors, and change makers. And we are gathering 20 industry experts to bring all of their expertise, knowledge, and strategy under one virtual roof to help you start leveling up your business, your positioning, and as I like to say, maybe even your life with publicity, PR, media exposure, and speaking opportunities. Things like getting on a TEDx stage, speaking virtually, what we're going to talk today about, speaking live on stage, television, podcasts, radio, magazines, and more. Everything you need to really be playing a much bigger game. And today, I am so happy to have with me Jessica Rasdall. Jessica, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
I have to tell people a little bit about you. I love that you're the purple gal.
I know.
Everything about you is purple.
Yes.
Sorry, a little segue there. Jessica is a well-known professional speaker, and she's been doing speaking for the last 11 years. She's an author. She's the founder of Speaking Strategy Academy, and she's one of our experts speaking at the Breakthrough with Media Summit, June 14th to the 16th. And she's going to be speaking about at the summit, she's going to be speaking about how to scale your business through speaking, or Speaking to Scale, which is also the name of her podcast. So first of all, thank you so much for being here today, but also thanks so much for bringing all your expertise and your knowledge to the summit. I'm so excited you're going to be with us. You're on Wednesday next week. And I've got you slotted in there because we have a few other people talking about public speaking professionally, but you're in under the skill set, because you mix public speaking and your expertise in teaching people how to become a public speaker, a professional public speaker, but also the skill set and the strategy to do it so that it actually has a huge impact on your business.
Absolutely. As business owners who are wanting to get more publicity and more visibility and this exposure for our business, I'm always trying to urge business owners that, yes, you need that. You need more eyes. You can only help as many people that know about you. And so if your friends in your small little group know about you, that's great. But what other kind of impact could you be making in the world? But as business owners, we have to be a little bit more intentional and selective about the visibility for our business, because visibility is not created equal. And visibility without a strategy is a fast track to burnout. I've seen so many business owners over the years be told by their coaches or consultants that, they need more visibility, they need more PR. And I agree, they probably do. But instead of taking a moment to consider this as a business strategy, they just jump in and say, okay, I'm going to speak everywhere, they'll have me. And that results in days out of office, time away from clients, projects getting neglected, and a lot of times speaking in front of an audience that's not in alignment with the sales they're trying to make in their business. So we really want to focus this session during this event on making sure that everything you're learning, from how to find the events, how to pitch the events, how to speak at the events, to make sure when you are showing up at these places and you are getting this visibility for your business, that you're doing it in a way that is resulting in quality leads and new clients and sales for your business, not just eyes on your business.
Yeah, I love that, because the people that this summit will best serve are entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, change makers, as I think of it. People who are, if you're having an impact in the world, as Jessica said, if only your friends know about it, you're not going to have that big an impact. You have to get out there and people need to see you. But the strategy, bringing the strategy so that there's an efficiency to that.
There
like you
is.
said, you're
There
taking your
is.
time away from your business if you're out there running around trying to get visible.
There is. And a lot of that plays into, what matters most right now, because this is going to change, and there's not like one size fits all. Speaking is not one size fits all. And depending on what type of business you have, how your business is structured, how revenue comes in, the season of your business, that is going to change over the years. Sometimes you have the flexibility to take on more work. Other times you're slowing things down. Sometimes the most important thing for you is bringing new people into your audience, and other times it's closing a sale. So you have to be really aware of what your business looks like, what it can handle. And I mean, I have had a lot of experience with media over the years, for my business and not for my business. And I think the biggest lessons that I've learned have been through those like fall on your face moments with media. And as I started my own business and started helping business owners through these experiences, it's been great to have experience. The experiences weren't great in the moment, but it's been great to have experiences
In
to lean
hindsight,
on,
yeah.
to remember, "Ooh, okay, I don't wanna do that again," or things to be more aware of going forward, because when I first got into media, it wasn't for my business. It was more of a personal thing,
You kind of
and
fell into
I
speaking
really
and
fell
media
into speaking.
exposure. Can you elaborate a little
Yeah,
bit on that?
absolutely. When I was in college, which we're not gonna say how long ago that was, it was in 2006. I was a business scholarship student, like, everything was about business. I knew business was where my heart was. Always just grew up playing business, selling bracelets on the playground at school, business. I was there. I didn't know what would happen from there. But, we get all these big hopes and dreams for our future, but our plan is not always the plan. And on one Friday night, I made a decision that changed everything. And I was a driver in a fatal car accident that claimed the life of my childhood best friend and almost took my own life. And I went from, in a matter of moments, worrying about midterms and what I would major in, to realizing there was blood on my hands that would never wash away, that I was now facing 10 and a half to 15 years in prison. And I could not call my friend, even though I kept trying to pick up the phone. She was gone. And I didn't know how to pick up the pieces, what to do next. It was just this, everything that I knew, the world I knew was gone. But I knew that I couldn't sit there. It was in me. I couldn't wake up every day and look in the mirror. I couldn't just keep going forward. I had to do something, but nothing I would do, ever do, would change what happened. So I started speaking. I started speaking to every young adult I could find, because the accident happened just weeks before what would have been high school prom time. And all I could think about was the fact that I had been a high school senior just a year earlier, and what kind of decisions were being made that night, or what things, and this mentality of, as a young adult, like, that could never happen to me. So I started sharing my story and speaking everywhere that I could. And I was just on this mission because I saw at that first speaking engagement, I saw the impact firsthand. I saw that nothing happened that year to any of the students. I listened to the phone calls from the parents. Like, I saw this tiny little glimpse into, if we are willing to put our own shame, fear, guilt, feelings to the side and focus on what difference our stories, our experience, and our expertise could provide for our audience, that impact that we could make is something we'll never be able to measure, ever. We get to see a tiny piece of it, but we can never truly measure that. And it lit a fire in me. I realized, like, maybe this was the reason I made it out of the car. I realized that there was a way that I could keep her memory alive, prevent her life from being lost in vain. And I spoke everywhere I could, all over the country, to tens of thousands of young adults. And my story was featured on every media outlet you can imagine: ABC 2020, Katie Couric, Today
Wow.
Show, Good Morning America, everywhere. And so I learned very quickly what it was like to have the media dictate my story for me. I
And
learned
at
that
such a young age as
at
well.
19. I learned what
Wow.
it was like to have somebody else tell your story for you.
No, just out of that, because
Yeah.
what we're doing in the summit is looking at both speaking and being in the media, and how you can do
Yeah.
both of these things. There's more control, I would think, over speaking in that you craft your story, you choose the stages. Did you learn at that young age, obviously the two were being blended, did you learn any takeaways about how you were going to control this side of things, or was there any controlling of it?
That is such a good question. So in the beginning, it was such trial by fire. Things were moving very fast. I didn't know what I didn't know, and every speaking engagement under my belt meant I was more comfortable sharing my story. Every media engagement under my belt meant I was more comfortable answering that question. Like that, I was like building this. That's speaking is not a goal to be achieved. Speaking is a skill set to be strengthened. And every single time I did this, I could feel that I was getting stronger at it, that I was getting better, and that practice doesn't make perfect, but it sure does
Yeah.
make a whole lot more confident. And with the media stuff in the beginning, I also am going to lean a lot on the fact that it was the timing of everything, that I was fresh out of an accident. I was with sitting there having these conversations publicly with a huge legal case on the table, open on the table.
So this was still kind of in the offing, like you could have actually, you had the
I
court case and you could have gone to prison.
I did.
You did
And
go to
then drops
prison?
the bomb. I did, but I was speaking about this before. I was out, like, while I was facing 10 and a half to 15 years in prison, and I was going out and publicly saying, "I did this. This was my fault." And that's not exactly, what, your
Your lawyer
attorney is
wanted
going
you?
to
Yeah.
recommend. He wasn't
Yeah.
exactly happy with me about this, but for me, I just kept being in 10 years when I look back, am I gonna wish I would have done this? Because that's the only thing that matters right now. I can't make these decisions based on how I'm feeling right now because this isn't a normal environment that I'm walking through.
Yeah.
And for me, all I could think about was in 10 years, I will not be relatable to these young adults. I will not be able to come back and make this impact. I
Oh,
can only do
wow.
this now. And it was going
That's
to
an
be
amazing
uncomfortable.
thought to have gone through your mind when you had everything else going on in your life.
I suppose, yeah.
See, you had strategy even then,
I
even through
that's
the
I
trauma of it
don't
all,
know
you're
where
like,
that
"How do we
comes
best
from.
use this?"
But that kept being my piece of like, if I remove myself from this and I look at it from that 3,000-foot view of the impact I could be making, because with speaking, there's always this level of, well, what are they going to think about me? What if I don't do this right? All of those things on our end. And the second we flip that around and say, what does my audience need from me? Everything
Yeah.
changes. And in those moments, like, you're not going to impact every single one of those students in the room. You're not going to impact
Mhm.
every person tuning in, every person listen, but you don't know the difference it could make for the one person who is.
Absolutely. You will not know in some cases for years to come, if ever, when you have people come back to you and something that you thought fell on deaf ears, they come back to you and tell you that you changed the course of their life.
I keep all of those, and we're getting ready to move,
Oh.
so I've been maybe reading them lately, as
Oh.
we're packing things. But it's so true. You never know the impact that you're making. And so for me, in those moments when we're talking about the media aspect, like there was a lot going on at this time, and because it was an open case, like you guys can see this right now with anything that's going on. I mean, we just had the Johnny Depp trial, right? That's a great example of how publicized things can be, and people who have no connection to it are going to form their opinions, and everybody feels connected because they see a little piece of it. So with it being an open case, that meant that all of my media needed to be click worthy, meaning it needed to be something that
Oh.
people would want to tune into.
That
So they
and
were
that wasn't your choice. That wasn't
not my
your, "Let's
choice,
have
right?
them
That
click
was
for me."
the
This
that
was the
was these
media going,
outlets.
and as they say, "If it bleeds, it leads." So what they're doing click-worthy for you was probably not
No, no,
maybe
no,
the
no.
best coverage you'd want.
But right, like I said before, it wasn't about what I wanted. I
Yeah.
knew that there were so many every single opportunity I did say yes to. So if you've ever watched my 2020 special, if you've watched my series on MTV, like if you've watched any of them, know that the first time they reached out, I said no. And then I came
Ah.
around later, but I always said no at first. And it was because I would do this weight of every time I say yes to one of these, it comes with so much backlash. But every
Yeah.
time I say yes to one of these, I have an opportunity to get in front of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who very well may need to hear this.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, that was worth it.
Yeah. With an incredible message like that for an audience of people who do feel bulletproof and infallible. Yeah, it was a very important message to get out there.
And when I came into the business world and I started, it took me a while to get to the point where I realized that after a decade of speaking publicly, maybe that was something I could help people with. When
Yeah.
I started moving into the entrepreneurial space and I saw so much of the education around speaking or lack of education around speaking for entrepreneurs and showing up in the media, it was always from a place of what could be possible for you, but never this emotional connection to it, never somebody who had not good experiences with the media. And I brought a different perspective from me
Mhm.
because I was on guard. And maybe it's just because I am like a skeptic about everything as it is. Like I'm already hyper skeptical about things. Um, so I go into those opportunities with a different strategy. And I love doing that for my clients of allowing them not to be closed off. I want them to be open to everything, but to look at that through the lens of what if you don't go into that interview prepared? What if you step onto that stage without a presentation? I know what it feels like to have somebody tell my story for me and tell it wrong. And I'm never going to let that happen again. Right. So I know the power of creating an intentional story, creating a message that makes an impact, and being able to, whether you're on a stage, you're on a podcast, you're in a media interview, get that message through to your audience, no matter what else is going on. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's the part that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And that what you were saying about know that story and be able to get that across in something like when you're on the stage, you're telling your story, you're getting it across, but you've got the experience and are able to kind of put that in on the radar of your clients to understand that when you are actually in an interview, be it television or news or podcast or whatever, you've got to keep that story in there, but know that you've got the interference of the questions that are coming from the interviewer or the host. So you have to have your story nailed. You have to exactly know what you want to say to stay on track.
And the edits.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, it is. It's true. But when you can go into those interviews and have those, I feel like it all starts from like, I'm so nerdy about things, right? And I know we have to have this strategy for it, and it all starts with the talk, and I back
Yeah.
in from there through everything. And if you start with the talk, just like you said, like you then get to be the narrator of the story, start to
Mhm.
finish. It is your full performance of this is what I say when I'm in front of my ideal audience. And once you have that, you get really good and comfortable with it. And that makes those interviews so much easier because you're pulling sound bites from something that you already know. It's like knowing your favorite song. And if you hear a blip of it from a car driving by, you're going to jump in and start singing right away. No
Mhm.
problem. But if you don't know that song, you might just hum a little or jumble the words. And it's going to be the same thing with an interview, right? If you know your presentation, you have this signature message, somebody can ask you how you got there, what got started, the next step, the audience, like any little piece of your talk, and
Yeah.
you know how to jump in right there and be
Yeah.
impactful, not mumble.
So, like you being a veteran speaker and having started with that very impactful dual exposure of the stage, but also the media and sometimes not so friendly, you obviously have a ton of experience. Can someone who has never spoken before, but are maybe thinking either for their business or otherwise, if you have a business, you should be thinking about it for your business. Can anyone actually become a speaker?
Absolutely. And I think that word speaker is the part that gets us hung up. So we
Mhm.
hear speaker and we immediately think giant stage in front of tens of thousands of people. But speaking looks so much different today. It can show up in all different formats, especially for business owners, whether that is a large stage, an intimate retreat, a summit, a podcast, a live workshop. We could go on and on about all the different ways you show up and speak for your business. But when you show up and you leave your audience better than you found them, you are speaking on behalf of your company and you're making a great impact. And that is available for everybody. So I think so often we are like, oh, I'm great on sales calls or I'm great one-on-one with clients. then you too will be great on a stage. It's just taking that time before you're present, before you step onto that stage, to really think about who's the person this is for, what do they need from me, and how will I show up and help them? Not, oh my gosh, there's 3,000 eyeballs staring back at me. What are they going to think? Because it really doesn't matter what they're going to think, as long as you're serving them the way that you want to.
So if you were, with that, in thinking about what did they need, not do you necessarily want to say, if you're putting together a talk for speaking around your business, you're not thinking like, buy my stuff. You've got to get a little more strategic than that. What is the kind of the first thing with either your clients or anybody that you're giving general advice to? What's the first thing that a person who's entertaining the ideas of starting to be a speaker, what's the first thing they should start thinking about to kind of lay the groundwork for that?
So I know a lot of time, I'm not going to I just like to check my emotions at the door. I'm an Enneagram 7, if you're familiar with
What
this.
is that? Tell me that. What is that?
I am definitely the strategic, like, bury my emotions down deep and put on a smile kind of person. But with that strategy in mind, I don't like to make emotional decisions. I like to make strategic decisions, and then I can be all emotional, excited about it afterwards. And when it comes to speaking, so often our clients come to us, and like when I'm asking them, okay, well, I want to hear about your vision. I want to know, where do you want to speak? Why do you want to speak? Tell me all the things. And, I want to be on a stage with, think of the biggest person you can possibly think of, and I'm really passionate about this topic and I want to speak on this topic. And then I ask about the business. Well, what kind of work do you do? And they're never the same thing. So
Wow.
if you truly want to use speaking to explode the impact you're already making in your business, what I want you to do is grab a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. It's simple as that. On the left hand of the paper, I want you to list out all the ways that money comes into your business. Everything from passive products to high-end services to affiliate, all the way money's coming in. And then grab a highlighter, and I want you to highlight which of those revenue streams are most important for you to focus on over the next 6 months. That's it. On the other side of the paper, list down all those things that you're really excited about, all those topics that you think would be great speeches, that people have asked you about, that you're passionate about. And now you can go back through. And if those topics do not directly correlate to one of those highlighted topics, we got to table those till later. If you're a business owner, always start speaking with topics that point back to your revenue driving activities, period. Because if they don't point back to that, they're pointing away from it. And that's not what we're trying to do in our business. So many small business owners don't stick around for the long haul, and they can't make it. And if we are filling our days with speaking opportunities that direct people away from our services, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in our own foot. So if anything, I would say grab a piece of paper and really start to look at those possible topics for your business through the lens of really understanding that every time you show up and speak, most of your audience is meeting you for the first time. Unless you're speaking on your own stage, totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're speaking on somebody else's platform, most of your audience is meeting you for the first time. And you want it to be this clear shot, completely branded from first impression to happy customer, which means when they meet you, what you're talking about, how you're talking, it should be the same experience that they're going to have on your email list, in your programs, on your social platforms. And creating that continuous flow is what makes it very easy for someone to come from hanging out in the chat at a summit event to one of your closest customers in the end.
Yep. Yeah. The phrase I always think of is, what do you want to be known for?
Yeah.
Decide that. And that should be what is going to move the needle with your business, and amplify that with whatever else you do, as you say, be it social, be it, interactions with clients, be it speaking, whatever. You've got to stay in alignment. What do you want to be known for?
But it's just so exciting. There's so many, especially as business owners, because we wear so many hats. We've learned so much over the years. We've been able to do things. We're like, oh, I could talk about that. It's like, you could talk about that. But is that actually going to get you? So we always back into that, getting really clear on, what do I want my business to look like in 6 months? Where do I want to be spending my time? How do I want to be working with clients? Where is the money coming in from? And that allows you to do those speaking activities, do those visibility activities that are amplifying those streams. What you don't want, this can be really difficult if you've been in this season of business where you've shifted, you've pivoted, you've maybe outgrown a particular type of client, or you've changed services, because you're still going to get a lot of inquiries for what you used to do. And if you're trying to shift gears and pivot, you need to be, one of the fastest ways to pivot and educate your audience is by speaking. If you want to move and really turn your audience into the new set of pool of potential clients, you have to make sure you're speaking to what's coming next, not what you're slowly and maybe quietly closing the doors on.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I can't wait till next week when we're going to get into this, because I love a good strategy, and I love somebody who's looking at things very left brain and analytical. I'm like, yeah, the heart's in it. Your right brain is in it, and
Absolutely.
there's the emotion. But you have to be strategic about it. And I love that you bring that to
Yes.
everything that your whole approach to
Yes.
speaking. And also, I love that when I asked you, can anyone become a speaker? Obviously, when you've got the strategy and the mentoring, you know your story, and when you've got the groundwork there, yes, you can, and it can have an impact on your business.
I am the last person that you would ever expect to be speaking. I am myself a raging introvert, and you have to think I started my speaking career as somebody who was facing 10 and a half to 15 years in prison. Like, I'm the last person you'd bring in to speak to a bunch of young adults. So if you want to know how I did that and how I can continue to do that, whether I was a brand new business owner with zero email list, zero social following, and could sell out my first program live stream,
Wow.
it's the power of speaking and having your heart in the right place, but having a strategy to support that.
Wow. Jessica, thanks so much for being with me today and talking about this. And we're going to get into more of that next week. We're running Tuesday, June the 14th to Thursday the 16th. There's actually a separate bonus day for people who buy the All Access Power Pass. They're going to have daily after-hour sessions with our speakers like Jessica. But we also have a fourth day on the Friday. We're all going to be meeting and getting together and going deeper with everything that you've heard at the summit to really see, like, how can we make this work for our business? So I am just so thrilled. I cannot wait. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and also for being a speaker. I'm thrilled that we're going to be sharing your wisdom with everyone.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. This lineup is incredible, and you should be so proud of yourself for pulling together this incredibly just diverse set of skills we're going to learn from all different angles to be able to master this. It's sometimes you go to events like this and it just feels very one note.
Yeah.
And here we're getting perspectives, experiences, and wisdoms from all walks of visibility and PR and media. And
well, that's what I always thought. I mean, I help people with their whole, if they want to get visible through podcast guesting. But I know that that's not the only thing you're going to be doing. It's not this one strand. You're going to then be mixing it with all other modalities as the opportunities come up. And as you get bigger and bigger, it's a whole media campaign. And I thought, people need to kind of see the whole spectrum to be able to see how it all fits together and see what works best for them. Like, do I just want to go into speaking first, or do I want to hide behind the mic and be a podcast guest or whatever? But when you know what's out there and what's possible, that's when you can make good decisions, and you can have a vision for where this is going to go.
Oh, you're not even going to know the impact you make with the summit.
I hope it's a huge one. That's my wish. that it's really going to get people out there, get them speaking and in media and getting seen and found and really up leveling. And you're a huge part of that. Thanks so much for being here today, and see you next week.